Hello, my name is Jane and I'm a student at the University of Utah. I'm here with my classmates to help give you a brief introduction to the humeral ulnar joint in the elbow and its motions, flexion, and extension. My classmate Kyle is here to tell you more about this joint.
Hi, today we are going to be talking about the elbow joint. Now there are two different joints that can be classified as the elbow joint. There's the humeral ulnar joint, which we're going to be talking about today, and the radial ulnar joint, which is a totally different joint that will be covered later on by a different group. The humeral ulnar joint is classified as the humerus, which comes from the shoulder down to the middle of the arm, and then it's also the ulna bone. The elbow joint is also known as a hinge joint, which can be easily defined as a joint that loses range of motion at a certain point. To start off, I want to define a couple of different movements that are found within the elbow joint. The first one is flexion, which involves bringing the hand towards the middle of the body, and then extension, which is pushing it back to where it came from. Coming up next, we want to talk about the muscles that are involved in these two primary movements of the elbow joint.
In general, the scapula and humerus serve as the proximal attachments for the muscles that flex and extend the elbow. The ulna and radius serve as the distal attachments for the same muscles. As illustrated here, the agonists of humeral ulnar flexion are the biceps brachii, the brachioradialis, and the brachialis muscles. The agonists of humeral ulnar extension are the triceps brachii and the anconeus, located on the posterior side of the arm when in anatomical position. Keep in mind that the antagonists of these muscles are the elbow flexors, and the extensors are the antagonists of the elbow flexors. Next, Anthony is going to show us how these agonists and antagonists work together to create flexion and extension of the elbow.
Hi, I'm Anthony Piscopo. Next we're going to be talking about the antagonist and the agonist muscles, which just means when you're flexing, the antagonists are going to be relaxed so you can perform the range of motion perfectly. I have my assistant here, Gatlin Marks, great guy, I love him to death. So we're going to start with the anterior compartment. The anterior compartment is made up of three predominant muscles: the biceps brachii, which is the two-headed muscle, the brachialis, which is the true elbow flexor, because of the fact it attaches to the ulna and pulls it, like so. The next muscle is the brachioradialis. Now, as Gatlin is performing just a general bicep curl, we show that the triceps over here in the posterior compartment are relaxed. So, Gatlin's going to do that. These are going to start contracting so the muscle doesn't hurt itself as it descends. Next, we're going to talk about the extensors. The extensors, turn around, Gatlin, are the aconeus and the triceps brachii. The triceps brachii is just named triceps because tris, meaning three. It's a three-headed muscle. As Gatlin's performing, say, an elbow extender, we see that the biceps brachii and the muscles that we included in the flexors are relaxed, so the triceps are more predominant in this action. And those are the antagonists and the agonist muscles of the flexors and the extensors of the elbow joint or the radial ulnar joint.
Next, Gatlin will explain to us the plane of motion in which these movements occur.
So next we're going to talk about the planes of elbow flexion and extension. We'll also talk about the axis. And so first, I've drawn here a stick figure that shows elbow flexion and extension, which would be this motion. And we have the sagittal plane running through the midline of the body, which comes through this way, posterior and anterior. So if you're doing elbow flexion, say you're doing curls, you're in that plane of motion of the sagittal plane. And your axis of rotation, imagine a bar coming through your frontal lateral plane, and the axis is on your elbow. So that right there is going to be the axis of rotation, frontal lateral axis. And that's the same for extension and flexion.
We've selected 4 different exercises that are excellent for strengthening the elbow flexors and extensors. Each of these exercises occur in the sagittal plane, except for the bench press, which occurs in the transverse plane. First, Brock and Allen will introduce the 2 exercises for elbow flexion, and then the 2 exercises for elbow extension. Following each exercise, Kyle and I will walk through proper modifications for each exercise at the gym.
The motion that we chose to talk about for elbow flexion is an arm curl, which can be done with a barbell, with a bar with weights on the end, your choice. Start in a position like this with your arms at your side in anatomical position, and as you bring them up, the main flexors that you're going to use are the biceps brachii, the brachioradialis, and the brachialis. And so as you use those three muscles and bring it up, the main flexor is that biceps brachii, and then as you extend them in an eccentric motion, then you're just going to relax all those muscles, but as you resist that just motion of the barbell to fall to the ground, you're going to use those in that eccentric motion. And so as you do that, then you're going to work those muscles and use your elbow flexion.
For beginners, it's easier if you just do one arm at a time on your bicep curl. It allows you to focus on one movement at a time. It's not as complex of a movement. As an intermediate lift, you can do a bicep curl with the bar. It allows you to use both arms, except it's not as complex of a movement as 2 dumbbells. As an advanced bicep curl, you can use 2 dumbbells. It allows you to recruit more of the finer muscle fibers, because there's also a stabilizing. As you go up and down, you have to stabilize not only your elbows and your biceps, except also your core.
So another exercise you can use to work those elbow flexors is a chin-up. You're going to start out in an anatomical position. You're going to grasp a bar that's overhead. From a hanging position, you're going to flex those elbows while that shoulder is in extension and your shoulder girdle muscles adducting to pull yourself up to that bar until your chin is over the bar. That'll be the concentric phase of that exercise. For that eccentric phase, you'll want to slowly lower yourself down until your arms are back to full extension.
This is the beginning modification of a chin-up. We're going to be on a box. I'm allowing us to use our legs if we need to. It's a lot better for individuals that don't have the upper body strength to pull themselves all the way up. This is the intermediate modification of chin-up. We're going to remove the box and have a partner hold your legs. It recruits more of the upper body muscles, except you also have the help of your partner and your legs to help you on the way up. This is the advanced modification. We're going to get rid of all of the help and just use our upper body to pull ourselves up. It's more advanced because it requires more upper body strength.
So next we're going to talk about elbow extension. So the exercise we're going to talk about here is a tricep extension. Now you're going to start out in anatomical position. Whether you can use a barbell or a dumbbell, either way. Lift your arms up above your head. Your wrist is going to be posterior and inferior to your head for starting position. You're going to, for the concentric phase, extend those arms up above your head. And that is the concentric phase. And once you're going to the eccentric phase, you're going to slowly lower the weight down by flexing those muscles of the elbow again until you're back into starting position.
This is the beginner modification of tricep extension. We're going to use a band instead of the free weights. It's a little bit easier, and you don't have to stabilize it as much as you would have to with dumbbells. This is the intermediate modification of tricep extension. We are going to lay supine on the bench, and from the tricep extension with the dumbbells, adding in some stabilization, and doing it on the bench will also allow us to do more weight and to be able to control the extension. This is the advanced modification of a tricep extension. We're going to be standing up and doing the extension overhead. It's more advanced because it recruits more of the muscles in your arms. It recruits in the shoulder muscles as well as all the stabilizing muscles in your core.
Talk about a bench press. This is also going to be an elbow extensor exercise. This will involve muscles of the shoulder and shoulder girdle as well, but we're going to just focus on these elbow extensors in this exercise. Using those triceps brachii and anconia. You're going to start this exercise out lying supine on an exercise bench. You'll grab a barbell. Your wrists will be prone in a pronated position with your hands spaced about shoulder width apart. The elbows will be in full flexion and the shoulders horizontally abducted and extended. You're going to push that weight up so your shoulders are fully flexed and the elbows are in full extension. And for that eccentric phase, you're going to want to slowly, in a controlled manner, lower that weight down until it's about chest level.
For beginning on the bench, it's easiest if you use a bench. It helps to stabilize you as you do the work, or as you do the workout, and also to use a bar, because then you can use both of your arms together in the movement. Immediate modification on the bench would be to move from using a single bar to using 2 dumbbells. This allows you to target the individual muscles and uses the stabilizing aspects of your muscles. Except you're also able to use the bench as a stabilizing mechanism as well. Modification of the bench press would be to move off of the bench and onto an exercise ball. As we move onto an exercise ball, it recruits all of the stabilizing aspects in not only in each individual muscle as you do the bench press with the dumbbells, but also in your core, because you're having to hold yourself up off of the exercise ball.
Because we've focused on strengthening each of these muscle groups, the National Strength and Conditioning Association recommends lifting heavier weights and fewer than 6 repetitions for 2 to 6 sets each time that you work out the flexors and extensors of the elbow. To summarize, the humeral-ulnar joint is one of 2 joints in the elbow and only allows elbow flexion and extension in the sagittal plane, as it is a hinged joint. The main flexors are the biceps brachii, the brachioradialis, and the brachialis, and the main extensors are the triceps brachii and the anconeus. These muscles can be strengthened through bicep curls, chin-ups, tricep extensions, and the bench press. Almost any upper extremity movement will involve the elbow joint. We hope that you now have an increased knowledge of this joint and a better understanding of its function.